Good afternoon, Your Honor. David Cuddy on behalf of Mr. Purdy. We are ready to proceed with sentencing.
Good afternoon, Mr. Purdy.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Do you want to go ahead?
I do, Your Honor, thank you. Your Honor, to say this murder was senseless is an understatement. And I want to underscore for the court the sophistication of what really happened here. The defendant and his two co-defendants, they went to this drug transaction armed with firearms that had extended mag, also had a laser. It was dark at night so that they were able to see. Whatever happened between these folks at the car, the defendant and Mr. Branch, Lloyd Branch, and the driver of the car, we'll probably really never know. But as the car was speeding away that Gianna Stone was in, Mr. Purdy shot at it. There was no reason for him to do that. That bullet went through the rear window and struck her in the head. And instead of taking her to Good Sam, where she could have got medical treatment right away, they drove her to Tacoma and brought her out to the hospital there where she succumbed to her injuries. They came armed to this drug transaction, not with a .22 revolver, but with an extended mag, 9mm, with a laser. Now, Mr. Purdy was a juvenile at the time that this happened, and the state has taken that into consideration. We have reviewed the materials presented by the defense, and in light of that have considered his youthfulness and made a sentencing recommendation as a joint recommendation, taking that into consideration. Our recommendation, Your Honor, is upon his plea to murder in the second degree and assault in the second degree, he's a 2 for each offense. The seriousness level for it's count 8, but murder in the second degree is a 14, and that's 144 to 244 months. Life is the maximum sentence on count 9, which is the assault in the second degree. He's also a 2, and that's a level 4 offense. That's 12 plus 2, 14 months, and that will run consecutive. Your Honor, community custody is 36 months on the murder in the second degree, and it's 18 on the assault too. It's imperative that the court hears from the victim's family. They would like to be heard. I believe there's 3 of them, Gianna's parents and a family member. So if the court would entertain that.
Yes.
What would you like, Your Honor?
Wherever he's most comfortable, or wherever they're most comfortable. I do find that people don't really like to sit in the witness chair, so just up in front of the bar is fine.
Yeah.
You want to come here? Yeah.
Just right here?
Yeah.
You're comfortable there? Are you comfortable there?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's okay.
Will you indicate your name for the record first?
Oh, Tina Stone.
Thank you.
On February 25th, 2024, my daughter Gianna Stone was murdered at Sandbeach Park. She was 22 years old. Gianna was shot through the back window of a car as she and her friends fled from their attackers. Gianna had a bright future. Gianna was a cowgirl who rode as a princess for Kitsap County Silver Spurs. Her smile lit up our hometown rodeos for 2 years. She was an athlete who lettered and rowing at Bainbridge Island High School. She worked aboard the Washington State ferries and had just earned her merchant mariner's license, all ready to build her future on the waters that she loved. She was my only child. Your Honor, I want you to understand what happened in the hospital room at St. Joe's while I was sleeping. For 3 hours, Gianna fought for her life on an operating table. Her last words were, "I want my mom." She called for me and I wasn't there. No one gave me a chance to hold her hand, to tell her I loved her, or to even say goodbye to her. At 1 a.m., a stranger's voice on the phone asked if I was alone. before delivering 2 sentences that shattered my world. Your daughter was brought in with a gunshot to the head. We're sorry, but she didn't make it. My neighbor found me collapsed on the floor. That bullet did not just end my daughter's life. It killed the future she would never have, the wedding I'll never help plan, the grandchildren I'll never hold. It killed parts of her father and I that can never be resurrected. But Your Honor, this crime reaches far beyond my family's devastation. Gianna's friends, who witnessed her murder, now carry trauma that will shadow them forever. Her co-workers at the ferries lost a colleague that brought laughter to every shift. Our community lost a young woman who embodied hope and possibilities. I ask you to imagine if the defendant targeted your wife, your mother, your husband. Imagine that 1 a.m. phone call. What sentence would honor their life? What punishment would reflect the magnitude of that loss? Today, Your Honor, you have the power to choose justice. Statistics show that the defendant will most likely return to gang life upon his release. His family's gang affiliations suggest this pattern of violence will continue. Without meaningful consequences, more families will receive the call that I did. I ask you to sentence him to the maximum penalty allowed, not for revenge, but for justice. My daughter's gone forever. Her killer's freedom, that should be gone. To the defendant, you murdered my child. There will be no forgiveness for me and my mind, body, or soul for you. You are a void. You are my definition of pure evil.
And I'm gonna ask that you direct your comments to me, okay?
Today, the law will take a piece of your future, but you took all of my daughters and you took all of mine. I hope someone treats you with the same cruelty you showed my daughter. In a right world, you should be going away for life. There's nothing right about this. You are not worth any more of my time or my breath. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, I
And
appreciate
here's
it.
a picture of Gianna.
Is that
She had
her
her whole life
rodeo
in front of her.
dancing?
She's modeling in that picture. And she was a very happy child.
Thank you.
It's all been taken away from us. Thank you.
For the record, my name is Tom Klein. Your Honor, this is Gianna's backpack. This is her wallet. She had both of these items with her on February 24th, 2004. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. $11. That is all my cousin, Gianna Stone, had in her wallet the night she was murdered for $11. The price the man before you decided her life was worth. My name is Tom Klein. Mike Stone is my closest cousin and my best friend. We grew up together as neighbors and classmates in Edmonds, Washington. Mike is a brother I never had, and I consider Tina Stone to be my third sister. And Gianna, let's just say that she was the sun, the moon, and the stars in Mike and Tina's lives. And to me, she is the daughter I never had. On February 26, 2024, Gianna's light was extinguished forever. 3 young men out of 10,000, 17 and 18-year-old males in Pierce County made a deliberate choice. They armed themselves with illegal guns, which had extended magazines, and were equipped with laser sights. They went to a public park and a children's playground, and in a moment of calculated cruelty, decided that Gianna's life was worth less than these $11. That choice shattered our family. It destroyed Mike and Tina's world in a way that no parent should ever have to endure. They now live in a constant cycle of anguish, haunted by the memory of their only child taken so violently. Every morning, they wake up to a world without her. Every night, they go to bed knowing that there will be no memories, no new memories, only photographs, an empty chair at every holiday, at every birthday, at every family gathering. To say their loss is devastating does not begin to cover it. This pain is beyond comprehension. It is measured in every breath and every moment. They are forced to remember their lives before this horror became their reality. And yet, our system has told them to find peace in sentences that do not begin to match the magnitude of what was stolen. How can a handful of years in juvenile detention for this killer's armed and willing accomplices equate to an infinite worth of a life? How can time off for good behavior be the counterbalance to a lifetime of grief? Justice is said to be blind, but all too often it seems that blindness shields the guilty and leaves the innocent to bear the weight alone. Every hearing to keep her killers behind bars reopens wounds that will never heal. It is a cruelty built into the very process meant to protect victims like Gianna. Today, as you decide the fate of the shooter, I ask you to look beyond offender scores and severity of the crime guidelines. Look at the human truth. Gianna was real. She lived, she loved, and she had dreams. She mattered. And she matters still. Her life cannot be reduced to case files or legal codes. Justice must not leave her family trapped in an endless cycle of reliving the worst day of their lives. Your Honor, today I urge you, I implore you to deliver an exceptional sentence of no less than 265 months, 22 years plus 1 month. That was my cousin's, Gianna's, age when she was shot in the back of the head for $11. This is not vengeance. This is accountability. This is acknowledgement that her life had immeasurable value, and that those who destroy such a life should face the fullest consequences that the law allows. Justice for Gianna, forever 22.
Thank you.
This is Mike Stone, and I'm Gianna Stone's father. On the evening of the murder, my daughter was going out with 5 other kids, one of them a good friend, where she was going to celebrate her 22nd birthday, belatedly. They stopped at a public park. Their car was surrounded by 3 armed robbers, and the driver tried to speed away. Gigi, sitting in the rear, was shot in the head through the back window. She died 3 hours later, and it's a miracle that others were not killed. It's impossible for me to describe the experience of losing my daughter to senseless violence. Gianna was such a part of our lives. I could try to express the anguish of her loss, but I don't want to be another broken parent retelling a tragic story. Everyone's tired of candlelight vigils. I am sad, but mostly I'm angry. I hold a terrible rage inside me, chained inside me. I know that we shouldn't ask for revenge, but we should ask for justice. We, the family and friends of the victim, are being punished, but we're not guilty. We've been sentenced to a lifetime of heartache by the defendant, Daemeion Carmello Purdy. Purdy and his accomplices had illegal weapons fitted with extended magazines and laser sights. They posted videos online holding those guns, laughing, wearing the same hoodies that they had the night of the murder, all to a score of rap music. Phony tough guys, wannabe gangsters, dangerous monsters. Purdy and his accomplices, the Puyallup Police Department and detectives did a stellar job investigating and capturing these criminals. There was a mountain of evidence linking the three to the crime. Cell phone records, video footage, neighbors that saw the Mercedes, statements from survivors. There's absolutely no question about their guilt. As the victims' parents, we had no involvement in the legal process. We were kept up to date by the police during the investigation, but once the killers were arrested, we were sidelined. We can only trust in the court. It's been a frustrating experience, especially when the system seems to fail us. Before plea deals were made with Purdy's accomplices, we were warned that we most likely wouldn't be satisfied with the outcome. Apparently, in Washington State, there's a point system that determines sentence guidelines. If you're a minor, have no prior record, come from a difficult background, and these and other factors are reflected in the points. I'm told that as juveniles, they aren't held to the same standard of responsibility as adults because their frontal lobes aren't fully developed. I'm not an expert in Washington's criminal justice system, but I have some common sense. Armed robbery and murder aren't youthful mistakes. These actions are serious violent crimes. I knew at the age of 5 that robbing, injuring, or killing people was wrong, and that if I did these things, I would be severely punished. As for juveniles not being responsible for their actions, our government trains many thousands of young people who enlist in the military as young as 17 to conduct themselves with honor and discipline. Even with their undeveloped frontal lobes, they have enough mental capacity to serve, sometimes in combat. A few make decisions that change the very course of history. People will rise up or sink down to the expectations of society. My daughter was killed by a self-centered sociopathic parasite, part of a cancer in America. The disease is rampant. All you need to do is turn on the news to see the effects. Shootings every single day. Gangs, drugs, robberies, rapes. Washington is not a safe place. A recidivism study, as I'm sure you know, done by the U.S. Bureau of Justice in 2018, using data from 24 states, showed that nearly all, 82% of the over 400,000 prisoners released in 2008 were arrested, and 61% of them returned to prison within 10 years. There was an average of 5 arrests per released prisoner. 44% of those in prison for violent crimes recommitted another violent crime within 10 years of release. The rates were highest for those arrested as juveniles or those that had gang affiliations. It has been determined that criminals with the least chance of reoffending are those who are oldest when they are released. Logically then, It is both irresponsible and immoral to be lenient in the sentencing of juvenile murderers. How can we possibly justify the high risk of another person being hurt or killed? The defendant has clearly shown who he is. He murdered my daughter during the commission of a crime. He pled guilty to that crime. He doesn't deserve to live with the rest of us because he isn't like the rest of us. Thankfully, the vast majority of people would never murder an innocent person under any circumstances. There's absolutely no excuse. As citizens, we must all accept responsibility for our actions. Those dangerous criminals that will not abide by the laws of a civilized society must be locked in a cage for a long time to protect the rest of humanity. Unfortunately, that is reality. To think otherwise is delusional. Some people explain that inner city crime is a result of economic hardship, dysfunctional families, even racism. Sorry, Daemeion Purdy lives in Washington in the 21st century, one of the most liberal states in the country with a standard of living among the highest in the world. I don't know about his family life, but I know that he lived in a house. I know that he had clean water and adequate food. I know he was healthy. I know he went to school, that he had future opportunities. The defendant certainly started his life way better off than the life of my daughter when she was born. After a premature birth, she was left by her mother in an orphanage in Russia, a little girl with a birthmark on her face and one ear. She went through multiple procedures on her face to try and help her be less conscious about her appearance. She struggled in school with learning disabilities. Still, she did not give in. She remade herself. She was a beautiful, kind, and generous person. She loved life and she loved people. And she always tried to make the world a better place by making herself better. She didn't make excuses. She was thankful for what she had. Maybe the defendant lacked moral character or optimism, but he does not deserve sympathy. He had options. There are resources to help him if he was troubled. He and his friends chose to be criminals. He wanted to be a criminal. The videos they made show us that. Pulling that trigger and killing someone was only a matter of time with that attitude. That's who he is, and I don't feel sorry for him. He didn't try to make the world a better place. He's a selfish, spoiled brat that thinks he's above the law and thinks he can use a gun to take whatever he wants, even someone else's life. I don't know why he's that way, but it doesn't matter now. It's too late to change what he did. All of us make choices, Your Honor. You can choose to be lenient to Daemeion Purdy. Of course, if he's not in prison for a very long time, it's likely that he will endanger us again, maybe hurt or kill somebody after he's let free. By the choices you make today, Your Honor, you will be largely responsible for the safety of others in the future. Whatever happens, Purdy will still have a life to live, and Gianna will still be dead. Gianna spent the end of her short, sometimes difficult life crying on an operating table while the surgeons struggled in vain to keep her from bleeding out from a gunshot wound. She had no chance, no choice. Her future was violently taken from her for absolutely no reason, by a total stranger. Please, Your Honor, give Daemeion Purdy the maximum sentence allowable under the law. He had a chance to do whatever he wanted with his life, and he chose to kill my little girl. Ultimately, he chose this right now. Gianna deserves justice.
Thank you very much.
That's it for the state matter.
Thank you. Mr. Cardinal.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, these are the toughest sentencings because the harm is always irreparable. Nothing anyone can do can take anything back at this point. And so the question always arises, where do you go from here? And the only thing that we can do in this situation is to follow the law. Parties have come to a plea agreement, and that agreement is for 210 months. That sentence is closer to the high end of the range than it is the lower. That sentence also, in essence, totals what Mr. Branch and what Mr. Norgren received as their sentences for their participation in this crime. The law tells us that in sentencing, the court has to consider all parties involved, the victim, the defendant, and the community. That the punishment should be commensurate with the harm of the crime. And undoubtedly, this is the most severe crime that a person can commit. However, the court has been provided mitigation materials from the defense. It has done so not to present an excuse for Mr. Purdy's actions, but to provide understanding of where he came from and how this happened. And most importantly, how this is not going to happen again. One of the important factors that the court should consider is looking off to the court's left side of the gallery. You see a number of members in support of Mr. Purdy. Mr. Purdy has a lot of support from his family. The sentence that the court is asked to impose is not a short sentence. Mr. Purdy was 17 at the time of the offense. At 210 months, that's roughly 17 years, a little over. Mr. Purdy would have spent about as much time in custody as he would have out of custody. In preparing the mitigation materials, I had an opportunity to speak with Dr. Simpson. One of the questions I had for Dr. Simpson was the effect of the COVID lockdowns on developing youth. At this point, there's not enough data collected or studies done to know the true exact extent of the harm to youths. But I suspect once those studies have been conducted, the data would suggest that having children isolated for extended periods of time causes them to miss milestones, developmental milestones, intellectual milestones. And I have no doubt that's what happened here in Mr. Purdy's case. The court was provided some school records from Mr. Purdy. That demonstrated that Mr. Purdy did have the capacity to do well when his circumstances were well. He got A's and B's in school when things were going well for him. And he dropped to F's when they weren't. We hope that the court considers that in considering Mr. Purdy's potential for change. That if Mr. Purdy gets in the right situation, he will be a law-abiding citizen, and he will have a future in front of him. Again, nothing justifies the loss, and the sentence isn't meant to measure the value of a person's life. But we hope the court considers that a lot of thought went into this recommendation to the court, and that the court follows the recommendation of the parties. That he has pled to most serious offense, as well as assault in the second degree. I believe Mr. Purdy will address the court and explain his remorse for the situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Purdy, excuse me. Now is your opportunity to say anything you want to say.
Dear Mr. and Mrs. Stone, there is not a day that goes by that I don't think about the tragedy that happened. I did not have the intention to end my life. I made the worst mistake of my life, and I will pay the consequences. I know there is no amount of explanation to excuse what's been done. I pray that one day you can find it in your hearts to forgive me. I hope that everyone who was affected can find peace in the fact that the ones responsible are facing justice and are taking accountability for their actions. I'm sorry for bringing sadness and grief to your family. No one deserves to lose not only a loved one, but a child. I cannot say I know how much hurt you are feeling. I can only imagine. Even as I write this letter, it is beyond what words can express upon my sincerest apologies and dearest condolences of what your family deserves. I will be praying for the recovery of your family. I am truly sorry.
Thank you. Well, this is the sort of case where there really are no words that I can say to make this better for anybody. This is a horrific set of circumstances. I can't say I would not feel the same way were I in Stone's shoes, certainly. This young woman did not even get a chance to live her life. She was killed at such a young age, at 22 years old, just starting out with the hope and excitement of being 22. Her mother indicated the pain that this has caused, not only the family, but their friends and the community. And that's what is extra tragic about these circumstances. It's not just taking the life from the person, it's taking the person away from the loved ones. And that is really a life sentence for them. Mrs. Stone also said that no punishment reflects the magnitude of the loss. And that is accurate, that no truer words have ever been said, Mrs. Stone. No punishment will replace Gianna. No punishment will give you the comfort that you deserve. She did matter. She mattered. And she mattered in the lives of her family, her friends, and those who loved her. Nothing that any of you said was wrong at all. And I agree with Mr. Katayama that the sentence does not measure the value of a life. We are, the system that we have is the system that we have. And I have two incredibly experienced and talented attorneys. I don't know all the specifics of this case. That's what happens when you have a plea. I didn't listen to weeks of testimony. I don't know all the circumstances. I know what I'm told here today. And I have a very carefully negotiated settlement that is not the low end that it could be. This is not something that was reduced to manslaughter. It's murder too. It's what he was charged with initially. Nothing is appropriate. There's no amount of time that would be appropriate, but I am going to adopt the joint recommendation, and I'm going to sentence you, Mr. Purdy, to 210 months in prison. Additionally, 36 months community custody. I believe that that's it. And I did notice that you were required in a sentence, which is unusual, I think, in a sentence of this magnitude, a crime of this magnitude. You've agreed to enter into, to have drug and mental health evaluations and treatment while you were in prison. And that gives me some hope that you want to change. I will indicate, I did read the mitigation materials because this is a plea agreement. I don't have to go through the Houston Sconyers analysis, but I will note that you've had a lot of traumatic experiences that would have negatively affected your development. That doesn't excuse your actions. I agree with Mr. Stone. You know when you're 5 years old that you don't kill people. However, the fact of having been exposed to domestic violence, the school changes, the moves, having food and housing instability as a child, along with anxiety and depression, does affect children. By the time that you committed this crime, arguably, you are not a child anymore, but your development was affected by this, and that's not something that I can just ignore. You're not getting an exceptional downward sentence, but I believe that that was considered by the prosecutor's office very carefully when negotiating this plea. And it does appear appropriate, so I will adopt the joint recommendation. This is a tragedy for both families. I don't know what I could possibly say that would make anything better for any of you. I just think that as a society, we need to try to move away from guns and support our children in every way we can, even if they're not our children. I hope that you're able to find some peace moving forward. I know that will be incredibly difficult. But you'll obviously never forget your daughter and the joy that she brought to your life. I can't even imagine what it is like for your family right now. And I'm sorry that this happened. Were there any other provisions, Ms. Montgomery, that I missed?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you.
We anticipate indigency, so the fines
Yes.
and fees.
Yes. Mr. Purdy, I hope you use your time in prison to your benefit. I imagine it's not a pleasant place, but there are some programs to better yourself. I see you had dreams, and you can still have those dreams, and you owe it to Gianna to be a productive member of society and to leave any life of violence. That's the only way that you can even start to repay for what you did.
Your Honor, on count 9, I put 14 months.
Yes, the assault.